Hi, this is Anna, and this is Check It at the Round Table, where we discuss movies, books, music, and stuff. Today, we are discussing Plus and Minus, the Taiwanese BL drama series. For those of you who don't know, I have done a review per episode when it was airing on the podcast. You can go check out the individual episode reviews if you like. But today, I'm reviewing the entire series as a whole. All right, so what do I think of Plus and Minus? Well, I got interested in Taiwanese drama and Taiwanese BL drama in particular in early 2020. So I had watched Love, Life, and the Line, which is the J drama, which if you haven't seen it, you should turn off this podcast and go check out. It's on Viki Rukaton, and I think it's on a couple of other platforms, but definitely turn this podcast off immediately and go binge watch that. The director's cut I will recommend over the series cut. So anyway, the ending is very, very nice. So anyway, moving on. But I had watched the J drama, Love, Life, and Line, that was available on Viki, and then I had watched History 2, Right or Wrong, about Xia Ji and Zhao Fei, which again, if you haven't seen that one, you should definitely check out. And the thing that I really like about Taiwanese drama in particular is, I don't know how to say, and this is not to offend people from Taiwan who might think of this as a negative, but there is a sort of innocent kindness about Taiwanese dramas. It might just be the ones that I have seen, but the characters are very thoughtful to one another. I would say that's the thing that stands out to me about Taiwanese drama. It's like whether you're talking about History 2, Right or Wrong, or whether you're talking about Fighting Mr. Second or Return of the Runner-Up, which, again, if you haven't seen those shows, go to WeTV and check them out because they're like seminal works. Whether you like BL drama or not, you're going to probably love them. So anyway, but the thing I find most interesting about Taiwanese drama is the characters are very thoughtful and also in many ways, and not in a negative, but very innocent people. It's like they haven't had the world beat the junk out of them, so to speak. So they aren't like these hard, crusty people. They're just like very nice, kind people who, yes, things might have gone bad for in their lives, but they're not going to let that mar their view of things. Now, I will say History 4, in my opinion, was an absolute travesty, which I'm not even going to go into. And I just didn't even review that series because it's not the typical Taiwanese BL drama series. And I was like, no, just no. And the same with Make Our Days Count. Again, no. Do we really have to end things that miserably? I didn't even finish that series, but I'm just saying, again, do we really have to end things that miserably? So, moving on, cleansing from that topic. Okay, palette is cleansed. Plus and minus, though. So, I watched History 2, Right or Wrong. I had watched Fighting Mr. Second, Return of the Runner-Up, which I literally did my work schedule around so I didn't miss a premiere episode, because really, on the grand scheme of things, that was pretty momentous, that series, or two series. And then we had I Do Be Left in House, which, lest we forget, was also a really good series. Yes, they did have their hokey moments, which were, there were a few, but again, the likability and the innocence of the characters is what I found very endearing overall. So plus and minus, you have Jing Zheng, who is a lawyer, and his best friend Fu Ligong, who is also a lawyer. And they have been friends since literally they were toddlers. They were born a day apart as well. And it opens up with Fu Ligong remembering when they were in high school, and Jing Zheng had a birthday party for Fu Ligong, and they had to run away from the school police because they were not supposed to be drinking alcohol and having cake on the roof of the school in the middle of the night. I mean, rules, who would guess? So anyway, and Jing Zheng had too much to drink and gave Fuligong a kiss, which he did not remember for the life of him. And so Fuligong wakes up, and Fuligong is 27 now, and Xing and him still live next door to each other pretty much. They eat breakfast together. They go to work together at Fuligong's dad's, which is a law firm, and their life is pretty structured. There is very little change. It's the same day to day to day. Now, this year, though, Xing Zhang's dad is like, Xing, you're almost 30 years old. Okay, I'm sorry, but I was just reading an article recently that said most millennials, like 56% of us, are still unmarried. So I really don't understand why everyone's like, when there's so many of us. I'm like, we'll either get married or we won't, but it isn't something to go over. So anyway, I'm sorry. I find that kind of funny. So anyway, Xing's dad has set up some blind dates for Xing, and Fu's dad has also, I can't remember if it was Fu's dad or Xing's dad, thought to help Fu, he would also set up Fu with some blind dates as well. Now, I'm not really sure what's with the blind date thing in Taiwan. I don't know if this is like a thing that happens quite often over there. I haven't had any of my Taiwanese friends ever mention this kind of weird blind date thing where you don't even know the girl. They're like a friend of a friend of a friend, or a friend of your cousin, which you haven't seen in years. So anyway, both Fu and Jing go on their blind dates, which the morning blind dates go really bad. I mean, no offense at all, but I'm like, the women were, yeah, they were weird. I mean, not just a little weird. I mean, like, one just wanted to talk about desserts, and Fu's like, I like dessert, but I can go to a bakery and get a dessert. And the other one thought that because Xing worked in the law firm, he must be dealing with murderers. And he's like, we deal in civil law, divorce cases. That's it. We don't, go after the big criminals and all that. So anyway, that went fabulously for them. And then in the afternoon, Xing comes to Fu and he's like, you know what, why don't we just liven things up and get this whole bloody blind date thing behind us, and we will be actors. Now, I don't know where the actor played Xing learned English, but it's really, his pronunciation is very unique. So when he's trying to speak in English and pretend to be the actor director, it's kind of funny, and he doesn't mean to be. And I'm not making fun of the actor. I'm just saying it's kind of hilarious as an English teacher, because I'm going, in the K-dramas, the guys sound like poly girls. Even my friends from Korea will say the same thing. And in the Taiwanese dramas, usually they have perfect English. I mean, like native speaker level English. But for some reason, he keeps saying actor, director. And I'm like, where did you learn to speak English? I mean, I don't mean really, I'm curious. So anyway, he's busy being the actor director with his script, where he first is Fu's, and Fu's sitting there and going, I did it, I'm fully gone to that. And the woman's saying, and he says, are you prepared to date someone who is a truly terrible person? And I'm sitting there going, I can imagine Fu Gong being many things, but the idea of him doing anything remotely terrible in his entire life is something that I'm going, it's just not going to happen with Fu. So I'm sitting there losing it on the couch in the first episode going, Fu doing something truly terrible. I've only met him in this first episode, but I can guarantee it's just not going to happen. So anyway, that makes the woman pick up her coffee and leave the table with a righteous flourish. And he's freedom. And then is Xing's turn, and Xing ends up telling the woman that he wants 4 children, or maybe 5 kids, and he likes jigsaw puzzles. He doesn't really like to leave the house. She wants to get married right away, and where's she wanting you? And I'm going, again, the accent. He doesn't talk strange in any of the other episodes, but the accent in this one is comical. He did not mean it to be, but it is if you're an English teacher. So I'm saying they're losing it over Fu Gong, saying, can you imagine doing something truly terrible? And I'm like, No, I can't imagine that with you. And then Xing's then going, I wish you on you an actor director. And I'm sitting there going, this shouldn't be funny, but it is. So anyway, if I was speaking in Mandarin now, I'm sure the two of them would be laughing at me because, again, I'm not good at Mandarin yet. But so that's how the first episode goes. By the second and third episode, Jing, we find out his dad raised him and his sister. His mom is not really part of the picture, and Jing has a lot of anger against his mom for, I would say, kind of a good reason. I mean, she wasn't a part of his life at all. No explanation as to why, just gone. And that bothers him, even though he's almost 30, because he didn't have closure. And Fu Gong is really good at kind of calming Jing down when he gets into one of these funks about his mom. Jing also has trouble with a bit of a drinking habit. So if he does drink too much, Fu helps him get home, gets him in his place, then, leaves. And by the end of the day, we find out that Jing had given Fu Gong a magnetic key fob that the other part, one's plus, one's minus. The other key fob was missing when Fu Gong was also going to give him a magnetic key fob. Well, come to find out, I guess that's a couple gift back in the day. So anyway, but by like episode 6, Fu Gong, it is found out by Jing, like Jing, and Jing is kind of shocked and trying to sort this out and not doing a good job initially. Now, I will say, when you first meet Jing in the series, I think my initial reaction was I felt a little bad for Fu. Not trying to be bad at all to Jing, but I'm like, why would Fu like Jing? I mean, Jing is a lawyer. They both share the same career. They've both been friends for years, yes, but you'd think he might be with someone who's maybe a little more reliable and a little less prone to drink too much alcohol and do stupid stuff. But by I would say episode 7, 8, I'm going, it reminds me of Bad Buddy. And I think, this show came out a year after Bad Buddy, or approximately a year after Bad Buddy, and I think that there's a reason for that, because I don't think you would have had plus and minus if you hadn't had Bad Buddy first. And for those of you who have watched Bad Buddy, if you watch plus and minus, I think you'll know what I'm talking about, because the thing about Jing is, yes, he's immature. Yes, he does really stupid stuff. And yes, I think most people would undoubtedly say that they do like Fu better because he does have a more steady character and is way more thoughtful. But I will say that Jing surprises you. He does try very hard. It's like in, I think it's episode 11, when episode 10, when Fu is talking, was it episode 10 or 11? I can't remember if there's 13 or 12 episodes, because there is a spin-off episode, which is fabulous, but anyway, we'll get to that. But when Fu is talking to Jing's dad, and he says, Jing's name means shield or protector, and he is so bent on protecting his dad, you, and his sister, and all those he cares about. It's like that is his modus operandi. And I think that is Jing's modus operandi. He tries to protect those he cares about. Now, does he always do a good job? Oh, heck no. But he does try. And I think, at the end of the day, the reason that Fu and Jing end up together is because, number one, they've known each other for years. They know all their quirks. They know all their positive. They know all their negatives, not to be playing off the plus and minus here. But also, they both have the other's best interest at heart. It's like, I think a lot of people get together because they think that they are, it's passion or romance or all that. But I think sometimes it really is it best for the other person? Even like when everyone was like sending dagger eyes at Fu's character in like episode 10 when he broke up with Jing. I think, even that was because Fu didn't want Jing to lose his dad. He's like, oh wait, we can break up. You'll still have your dad. You'll still have your sister. I'm not going to break up the family that you've always known. You've already lost your mom. And even in that situation, I think, again, the care is what was really interesting in this drama. Also, we have the laundromat owner and the bartender in this one, which, Yuki, and I can't, Mr. Lai and Yuki. I'm like, they were a strange couple, but it seemed to work and got along well with Lele. And so there you go. But I'm going to backtrack and talk about that a little bit. Mr. Lai is a laundromat owner who has dreams of brewing coffee. He really has a very, kind of like Kuligong and Jing, they have very structured lives. Nothing really changes. Everything's the same. I think that everyone likes it that way. But Mr. Lai ends up chatting with Yuki down at the bar, and then suddenly things kind of evolve into more than chatting, and Mr. Lai doesn't know what to do about that, and then he's worried about Lele. And though, by the end of it, I'm going, Mr. Lai needed someone, maybe not Yuki, I'm not saying he needed Yuki, I'm simply saying he needed someone in his life who helped him gain courage to try new things, like opening a coffee shop cafe on the side of the laundromat, because you can have both of your dreams if you want to. So also sitting there and going, you don't have to keep all the clothes that nobody ever picks up for years on end. That was progress for Mr. Lai, and he would not have been able to do it had it not been for Yuki. So, I think that this series is mainly about not necessarily how people end up with people who change their perspectives, because I don't think really no one's perspective was like greatly changed by being with like Fuligong being with Xing or Yuki being with Mr. Lai. But I think that it's more about people's lives being better because they are together rather than apart. It's like the quote in Supergirl when someone asked Dreamer if she was in a relationship with Brainy, and she's like, no, it was more than that. It was like we were partners, which I think, it's one thing to be in a relationship with someone. It's another to consider them your partner in like how you approach life. It's like the example of, what was it? Fellowship of the Ring. When Frodo and Pippin and Sam are on the top of that hill fighting the Dark Lord's minions, the ghosts, they're like the Witch Kings, and they are back to back fighting. Whereas most people are like, in the relationship, I'm going, they have each other's backs. They're going to protect one another. They've got the same viewpoint. It doesn't mean they agree entirely on everything, but they're going to support one another when push comes to shove. And I think, that's the thing with plus and minus, is the couples were stronger and more determined together than they were apart, which is one of the reasons I like it. Also, this has a lovely musical track list by Amy. I do not know her last name, but I will drop that in the lesson, or not the lesson notes. Okay, I've been teaching you English today. But anyway, I will drop that in the notes to this, or what do you call it, the description to this podcast when I get those descriptions updated. But again, it has a wonderful soundtrack, which if you haven't heard, you should definitely go check out. I'm also going to drop, someone did a really cool music video on Fuligong and Jing that I will drop as well. I think it was To Him Blaze, the channel, which if you haven't checked out, they have a lot of really cool music videos. So you should definitely check them out. But I would give this series 9 out of 10. Now, I will say this is not an entirely kid-friendly series. I would definitely skip a part in, I think it's episode 11, 10 or 11. I can't remember. It's the second to the last episode, right before the spinoff episode, where they do get a little too romantical. But I will say, they're engaged. They can do whatever the heck they want. But I would not watch that with the kiddies. Now in episode 12, the spin-off episode, I thought that one was kind of very, very funny, because in that episode we have Jing and Fu have gotten married, and Jing drank too much, so Fu is having to haul him out, and Mr. Lai and Yuki are having to help him out, and Yuki is intoxicated too and saying stupid stuff, so Mr. Lai has to get him out of there. And but during that time, you have a flashback where Jing is back in high school with Fu, and like basically the what if of if he had known everything, would things have been different? And if so, how would they have been different? And I really liked the episode because it was like it gave Fu recognition for basically being the person who he was for 10 years. So anyway, it goes from like the time that Fu was 18, now he's like 28. But anyway, and especially the end, I mean, no offense, but I'm going, that was bloody hilarious with now it wasn't entirely again, I don't think it was terribly unkid friendly, but I thought the part where Fu's like, so you're back in time with my 18-year-old self because my 28-year-old self isn't enough for you, and he basically pinned him down and wrestled him, and I'm like, that was very hilarious to me. So anyway, but that is how the series ends, and I really do like the spin-off episodes. They don't really have like this was made by Stinger Actor, the company, which you cannot find anything about online, except that they also made I Do Be Loved in House. But I would say the other thing that was interesting about this series was it was kind of a spin-off of I Do Be Loved in House, because you had Jin Yuzhen and Shi Li came into the divorce center because they've been married for 10 months and are having battles on purchasing of campers, for example. I'm going, you know, I really don't see them ever getting divorced, but I can see them sitting there going, yeah, and then deciding to call it off like they did in this series. But anyway, that was kind of funny, but also sitting there going, I still don't see Shi Li ever doing that to Jin Yuzhen, because Jin Yuzhen has been through hell before with that kind of thing, and I'm going, if you really care about someone, you're not going to put them through that same kind of hell they went through with their previous relationship just for kicks. I mean, and it's not like either one of them did anything terrible either to warrant that kind of conundrum, as it were. So I was sitting there going, this is a little funny on one hand, but it's also very inconsiderate of Shi Li on the other. And I do realize Shi Li is younger and maybe a little more reactionary in his approach to life than Jin Yuzhen is. Although I will say I think Jin Yuzhen would be equally reactionary on certain subjects. So I'm like, yeah, they just need to sort out their differences and have a cuppa and just calm down, which they did in the end. A cup of coffee. It really helped with the recording and interview with Jin Yuzhen and Fu Gong. Yeah, everything calmed down. But anyway, I would give the series an absolute 9 out of 10. I would probably give it a 10 out of 10 if I didn't have to skip any of it with the kiddies, but I did have to skip a couple parts, like the right before the wedding, and then also one part with Mr. Lai and Yuki. Yeah, Mr. Lai should not drink alcohol or copious amounts of alcohol. Yeah, it wasn't a good plan. But anyway, overall, this series was very good. I highly recommend it. It is still not of the same caliber as Fighting Mr. Second or Return of the Runner-Up, but I would say it's a close second for me, and I do like it better than I Do Be Loved in House, although I am a huge fan of I Do Be Loved in House. I did like this one better simply because I really liked Fu Gong. He's a very very sweet character. I don't mean that in a weird way. I'm simply saying he's a very kind character, and I really like that. And Shin grows on you. It's kind of like how you originally feel about Pat in Bad Buddy, and you really just want to swat him. I mean, there's very few people that make me feel that way, but it's like when you first meet the character of Pat in Bad Buddy, you have dark thoughts. Let's just put it that way. I mean, but by 3 or 4 episodes and you're going, you aren't as revolting as I thought you were. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but it's like I was watching it with one of my friends and they were like, Anna, this was interesting because you really do want to dislike Pat, but he really does show himself to be far more mature than you think he would ever be by like episode 5. And I'm like, I know, isn't this shocking? People can change for the better if they really work on improving themselves. Right, those teachable moments. Yeah, we all have them, and we all have been Pats at some point in our lives, but hopefully not for too long. So anyway, that is my review of Plus and Minus this series. You can watch this on Gaga Ulala. You can watch this on Viki Rukaton. I think there might be another platform you can watch it on, but those are the two that I would recommend. I will say Viki Rukaton still stands as having the best English subtitles so far for different shows, although it was interesting to watch it on both platforms simultaneously because it was a little different. And there were some points I Gaga Ulula might have a better translation on this point, but Viki Rukaton overall has the best translation. And that is my review of Plus and Minus. Check it at the round table. Bye.